It's mind-blowing how
It's
they can
top
get-
to bottom, so it's government implemented. The ANC is corrupt to the core. They break so they can steal. And the only thing holding this country together is the private sector. That's it. Otherwise, we're done. We're toast.
But kind of just give some of the most extreme examples of what's happening in that field.
Racist, kleptocratic government, the ANC, refuses to give Starlink a license unless Starlink gives 30% to one of their cronies. And Musk says, I'm not going to do that. Trump and America has a huge investment package ready to come to South Africa. Massive. On 3 conditions. Well, Cyril Ramaphosa was like a giggling schoolgirl moving on his butt cheek to butt cheek, not knowing what to say. And I mean, it was pretty disgusting to say in front of Trump, South Africa has a high murder rate, it's a very dangerous country. Why do you think it's that? Because of you, Cyril Ramaphosa.
If things don't go the way you want them to, and the ANC remain in power, just how worse can it get here in South Africa?
So the ANC have been acting with moral superiority from day one. We're the Rainbow Nation. We saved South Africa. We can say and do whatever we like. We're untouchable. Not anymore. Thank you, Trump. Footsack ANC.
The ANC, the African National Congress, got that right? Been doing my homework. So what's that comparable to more Western political parties? So in terms of like left, right, how could you kind of make the comparison or draw the parallels between, say, like let's use Labour, Conservative or Reform now in the UK?
None of them.
None?
They are Venezuelan government. They are thieves to the nth degree and incompetent. And I don't think you have that level of corruption or...
So it's that severe.
It's that severe.
Okay, wow, okay. I know you referenced
they have used democracy, probably with a Russian playbook, to infiltrate all the institutions of capitalism and democracy, capture them. It's a favorite word in South Africa. Funnily enough, if I go on a black person's podcast and we get on really well, people go, oh, he's captured. Rob's captured him. You know? I mean, it's like loopy-loo.
It's not easy, yeah.
One photograph with someone else, oh, they've captured. You know, it's like, hey, guys, wake up. So there isn't an equivalent in the Western world. I really don't think there is. I know we're a democracy.
When Mandela, so, because I'm just trying to put it kind of like in layman's
If it was
terms.
Mandela and Mbeki, here we go.
Okay.
They would have started off as centre-left, moving to harder left.
Right.
They use all the leftist nonsense, DEI, net zero, ESG, in their racist and kleptocratic ideology. So, for example, black economic empowerment. It sounds good, doesn't it? All these things with 3 letters, you've got to watch out for them. You know, ESG, CEI. Black economic empowerment. Sounds good. Everyone buys into it. We need to empower black people and get them up the social and economic ladder and help them. What does it really mean? It really means 100 individuals steal as much as they can for 20 years under the guise of a law that says black economic empowerment. It's actually black elite enrichment. That's what it really is. Okay, for 30 years they've been doing it. So if you come into South Africa and set up a business, or you have a business in South Africa, initially it was businesses that dealt with the government. Now it's any business. At least 1/3 of your company has to be owned by it says a previously disadvantaged, but it doesn't anymore mean coloured Indian and certain blacks. It just means buddies of the ANC. They have the right to steal 30% of your business. And that's why Elon Musk will not allow Starlink to come to South Africa, because our racist, kleptocratic government, the ANC, refuses to give Starlink a license unless Starlink gives 30% to one of their cronies. And Musk says, I'm not going to do that. That's theft. BEE is theft. And we have a law called expropriation without compensation. I mean, how moronic to even give it that name. Why would anyone invest from overseas when you have the sword of Damocles hanging over your head in a law called expropriation without compensation? Now, it hasn't been implemented yet, but so what government, it's probably left of Labour. And to be fair, the Democratic Alliance that has 22% of the national vote and is the party you and I probably would vote for, I would describe as more Democrat than Republican. And when I look at my values, and I always thought of myself as center right, always, okay? Even when the Overton window was kind of in the middle. Now it's shifted so far left. I'm probably seen as Hard right. Yeah. I don't know who's further right. I think it's gone right underneath. And it's Tucker and Candace, loopy loos, paid by Qatar, those two. But I think the DA is probably Democratic Party. And then we have one or two parties that have my sort of values in this country. And my values are, free market, libertarian, rule of law, democracy if we have to. I prefer a slightly stronger version. Get rid of illegal aliens, close our border. It's very much Republican, Trump, MAGA reform. That's where I want to be in this country. And there are some parties that represent my values, but they're very small at the moment.
You want to try and build those up?
They're gaining ground.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, people are pissed off. They're just sick of this leftist nonsense. And they're beginning to look at the DA as being a bit compromised because it's been working with the ANC. It's a bit unfair, that.
Would you ever get into politics yourself?
No.
Just flat out no, you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked to join existing parties, and I've been asked to join a party that's going to be launched. But then you have to agree to the manifesto. And I've always said that out of the 10 manifesto points in a political party, if you can agree with 7 of them, that's pretty damn good. But my life is, I want my values to be all the 10 that I believe in. And if I join the Democratic Alliance or Freedom Front Plus or Patriotic Alliance or a new party, I would only do it if those 10 manifesto points are the 10, and that's highly unlikely.
It sounds to me like the current ANC and the current government that you've got here in South Africa, it's almost as if like it's becoming a opposite to apartheid. So rather than kind of like, segregation against black people, it's kind of like segregation. I'm not going to say necessarily against white people, but certainly there's a hierarchical issue here, and it seems to be driven by DEI.
The only thing holding this country together is the private sector. That's it. Otherwise, we're done. We're toast. 1 million, mainly white South Africans, have left the country since 1994. The racial breakdown in 1994 was approximately white people 20%, colored and Indian people 20%, black people 60%. It's now white, colored and Indian 20%, black people 80%. And we're being flooded by illegal migrants too. So
you've got that big issue of that as well?
Big issue. We have no border.
Wow.
We have no border.
I wasn't aware of that.
Police and military are hopeless. I mean, hopeless. They're underfunded and corrupt. And we have no border. So we've got Angolans, Congolese, Zimbabweans, Malawians, and Zambians pouring into our country, taking jobs, and they're usually actually pretty good. And also taking up, public services, hospitals,
living in the UK, I hear lots of friends and relatives, they travel to South Africa. So you would think that the economy would be better just based on the tourism. So when I was looking into this, I did often wonder what's going on there. There's obviously some level of corruption.
It's huge.
It's mind blowing how
it's top to bottom. So it's government implemented. The ANC is corrupt to the core. They break so they can steal. Let me tell you what I mean by that. In a functioning democracy and in a functioning economy, things work, and the judiciary works. And it's very easy to find, or it's relatively easy to find people who are doing things incorrectly or in a corrupt manner. But when things break down, when the system breaks down, it's easier to steal. So the ANC know that. So they're putting their loyalists in place as head of the state-owned enterprises like electricity supply, water supply, roads, the border, the military. These people get put in place, and their job is to divert money to themselves and their patrons. And their patrons are basically all the ANC ministers.
Well,
all of them have basically made a fortune off corrupt practices. So what happens then is the state-owned enterprises start to collapse. I'll give you 3 examples. A maintenance budget, to maintain water and sewage pipes. These ANC cadres look at a maintenance budget as the easiest money to steal. They hand it off to consultants or friends to do jobs that they never do, and the money doesn't go into maintenance. What's the result 10, 15 years later? Sewage on the streets, no water in certain communities, taps running dry. That is what happens. I'll give Eskom, our electricity supply commission, as an example. We have something called load shedding in South Africa. That's 2 to 6 to 8 hours a day of no electricity. No electricity. You can't run a business on low electricity. It's impossible. You can't run an economy on no power. And what happens is, if you, the ANC corrupt cadre, shift the coal supply contract from premium coal to second-rate coal, the coal breaks the turbine. The turbine goes down, and then we have to urgently import diesel from outside the country. Guess who has the diesel contracts? The bad guys, okay? They destroy the rail network. What happens is the lorry business goes through the roof. Who controls the lorry business? ANC and their buddies. So they break so they can steal. They realize that by disrupting the economy, other parts of the economy benefit. But our roads are clogged now. You know, if you want to drive around Johannesburg or Cape Town or Durban, at certain times of the day, the cars don't move because they're lorries and cars and taxis because the trains aren't working. So it's an evil and pernicious ideology so they can steal. But the greatest damage of all is in education. We have 2 generations of people that cannot read for meaning. And I'd include some of our cabinet ministers in that. I actually wrote a letter that I haven't published yet to Fikile Mbalula, who's the head of the ANC, saying, "Dear Fikile, if you can read for meaning, which I doubt, here is my open letter to you." I mean, he's a moron. And
Have you had a response to that yet? Or
nah, he's attacking me all the time. He's like slamming. They all are. But these are buffoons and incompetent and corrupt. This is our government. But what happened I'll give you a quick what happened in 2024. We had a national election, and the ANC went from 56% to just under 40%, a massive collapse in support. Admittedly, a lot of those votes went to the evil EFF, Killabua, and to MK, which is Jacob Zuma's party. He just won't disappear. But the Democratic Alliance, which is a party you and I probably would vote for, I mean, there are a couple of smaller parties like Freedom Front Plus and Patriotic Alliance and IFP that we'd also vote for, but where we have centre-right values, is at 22%. And the ANC then had to form, for the first time ever, a coalition called the Government of National Unity, which is exactly what it isn't. But it has the ANC with its senior partner, the Democratic Alliance, and a whole lot of smaller parties in our government. And we have a coalition government at the moment.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
And I could do a however, but we'll get to it.
No, I'll bring you back on track. That's what I was going to say. The question was going to be, how have they managed to stay in power for as long as they have? But you've just outlined that.
Well, bribery and corruption's a start, but they're losing support. And why they're losing support? Because the average, mainly black, but also coloured and Indian South African, particularly the ones that weren't born under apartheid, a bit like you, are having a look and going, these idiots and their ideology are not delivering the basic goods. And what are the basic goods? Electricity, water, roads without potholes, basics. And they're looking and saying, this isn't working. And then there have been some revelations in the last 2 years about rampant corruption in this country in all aspects. And they've had the Zondo Commission and the Mhlanga Commission. Zondo Commission was a 2-year analysis of corruption in government, which is mind-blowing. They name names, and nothing was done about it. And then the Mhlanga Commission is this General Mkhwanazi, black police general in KwaZulu-Natal, came out with a press conference saying, the police are corrupt, the minister's corrupt, I work for a police force, I can't take it anymore, that is corrupt as hell. They've got an ongoing, transparent, televised commission of unbelievable corruption. So the average man and woman in the street see this and go, these guys are bad. But we've got to wait till 2029 for the national election, same as the UK.
I was going to say, preaching to the choir here.
And end of this year for our municipal elections. And those are the bellwethers of democracy. And I think the ANC is going to get shredded in all the metropolitan areas in South Africa. They're going to lose power completely, which means they're going to lose the ability to steal from the big metros like Johannesburg. That's going to be interesting when the new guys who come in point out who's been stealing and try and get them to justice. Remembering that our justice department has been captured as well. I'd say about 60% of the judges in this country are ANC stooges, or completely incompetent and stupid. So our democracy is shredding, our economy is going nowhere, and why would I live here? Why would anyone live here? Because it's paradise. If you live in an enclave, gated community, you go from home to work in a beautiful city or beautiful suburb, it is the most beautiful country in the world with the greatest people. But 2 miles down the road, you've got Mordor. You know, it's interesting. I've got this young buddy of mine who's a black guy called Jabu. And he's become like a son to me, and I'm a mentor. And he asks me questions all the time, new businesses. And he's definitely not voting ANC. He's born free like you. But his mum is old school. I've never met her because she doesn't want to meet me. The other day she said to Jabu, "Rob's a racist." And I said, "Jabu, am I racist?" He said, "No, by no means." But she's from another era. She's an old Gorgor, that's the expression. And we need the Gorgors to realize the ANC's actually let the whole country down. Yes, Mandela liberated it. Yes, Mbeki did a good job. But since Jacob Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa have taken charge, they have shredded the economy and the democracy through incompetence and corruption. And she needs to migrate to another party. We need all the Jabu's mums to do that. And it's now become urgent. This is the last off-ramp before we collapse. And we're not becoming another Zimbabwe. We're becoming another Venezuela.
Well,
where the mafia state run the country and the economy so they can steal. And guess who their allies are? Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, Russia, and China.
all those lovely world leaders,
who won't come to the ANC's rescue when they really get into trouble. They won't.
No.
Did Russia do anything to support Venezuela? No chance. Cuba? No chance. China? No chance. They're not. They ain't coming to the rescue.
Yeah, they think they've got allies until shit hits the fan.
Yeah. And it's coming. Trump sorted out Venezuela. Cuba's going to collapse. Russia's weak as hell. Economy's collapsing, and they can't beat Ukraine in a fight. Tells you they're toothless. China's got major issues. It's in deflation. Its population's going from 1.3 billion to 600 million, and they can't replace those people. And they've destroyed their environment. They have to import pretty much everything. And their focus is entirely the South China Sea. And Iran is about to get smacked.
Yeah.
By the way,
hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon,
yeah.
You know, Trump does his military endeavors on weekends.
Yeah.
So every time Friday comes, I'm like, this weekend, please, smack Iran. But why I'm saying this is, once all of those are resolved, whatever that means, guess who's next?
Yeah.
Trump's going to focus on these boys in South Africa.
I mean, that must have been refreshing, because I thought that was a stroke of genius with Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office. It was about a year ago now, where he was denying everything and then dim the lights, play the footage. How, obviously, you being someone who's advocated for this for quite a long time, how was that in one of the biggest platform, if not the biggest platform in the White House?
It was genius
in the world.
It was theatrical. And, you know, when you saw Cyril Ramaphosa was like a giggling schoolgirl moving on his butt cheek to butt cheek, not knowing what to say. And he was absolutely, and then he had his team around him who were completely, I mean, it was embarrassing for them. And Musk, standing on the other side, was glaring death rays at Cyril Ramaphosa. But Trump has been upset with South Africa for a long time, and rightly so. And we are very grateful for the attention he's putting on South Africa. What is actually happening? He's got other things to focus on, as you know. But Congressman Ronnie Jackson has put a bill into the Congress. It's gone through all the subcommittees, and it will at some point, it's ready to go into Congress to be voted on, hopefully bilaterally, to sanction and punish individuals in the ANC and other South Africans who have been anti-white, who have been racist, and who have been pro-Iran, Russia, China, and anti-America. And they're going to punish them. Separately and simultaneously, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana has put a similar bill into the Senate. So they're sitting ready to go. If both pass, they will be merged into one coordinated bill and signed by the president. And they will sanction using SDN, Magnitsky asset freezers, really nasty stuff, against Cyril Ramaphosa, Fikile Mbalula, Paul Mashatile, you know, Naledi Pandor, all the nasty anti-West, pro-Iran gangsters in this country are going to get punished severely.
And hopefully they do, because that's why I asked you at the start whether apartheid, there was, before that got dissolved, there was pressure from the West, and that there probably hasn't been any pressure
not from Europe,
towards South Africa. So, now, because that incident with Trump is what led me to getting in touch to do this interview, and that I'd seen you'd done other podcasts. So the awareness that generated has obviously been, in abundance for you guys as a positive.
On my podcast trip to America, I've got to give credit to someone called Ernst Roots. Ernst Roots did a podcast, him and Cully Creel of AfriForum, did a podcast with Tucker Carlson, before Tucker went loopy-loo, woke right. Did a podcast with Tucker Carlson a couple of years ago, raising the issue of the murder of farmers in South Africa and why it was happening, and the fact that the government wasn't even acknowledging it. Do you know you're 4 times more likely as a farmer to be murdered than as an average citizen, and twice as likely as a policeman?
Wow.
And this farm murder side has been horrific in South Africa. We've gone from 90,000 commercial farmers to 30,000 in a matter of 15 years, and they're off food security. So Ernst Roots was the first guy to point this out with Tucker Carlson. Then people like Gary Player, David Frost, and other extraordinary South Africans have been in Trump's ear with Elon Musk saying, things are not right in South Africa, you need to pay attention. And he's got so many South Africans in his inner circle, people who were born here and live in America, or people that he plays golf with and he trusts. And all of them have been saying, you've got to keep an eye on South Africa, things are going bad. Then he did his Oval Office, incredible theater, which brought Americans' attention to South Africa. Americans were generally, hang on, isn't Mandela in charge? Aren't all good things happening, like you said? And all of a sudden, Americans are like, this isn't right. I happened to fly over to Miami the day the South African delegation flew to go and see Trump. Okay, so I happened to be in America.
Timing, yeah.
Perfect timing. So I was with Dave Rubin, Patrick Bet David. I was on the Charlie Kirk show. May he rest in peace. A hero, Charlie. And various other shows while this was, materializing.
Oh.
And so the impact it had was enormous because, Patrick, Dave Rubin and others had a feeling that things were not good in South Africa, but didn't really know. And I think myself and others being on the American and European and UK podcasts amplified the message where people understood, aha, now we know why Trump's focusing on South Africa. And I think it's put huge pressure on the ANC and the bad guys.
You made reference there in regards to being a farmer is suicidal, I guess, in South Africa at the moment. This part's probably going to be a little bit more heavy than what we've discussed, but just give some of the implications, because I want to create as much awareness as we can around this. So I think the best way to do that is open honesty, which I know you're going to give in abundance, Rob. But kind of just give some of the most extreme examples of what's happening in that field.
So for the last 30 years, farmers have been attacked. And I don't just mean people with white farmers and large farms, small holdings, black, white, colored Indian farmers, everything, have been attacked at an extraordinary rate, a terrifying rate. It's chased people off their farms. There's been murder, rape, torture, which means it is not just economic. And Julius Malema, the head of the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, everything but that, has been jumping up and down and chanting in stadiums filled with 50,000, 100,000 people, kill the Boer, one settler, one bullet, da, 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 and firing a live gun in the air, for which he's been criminally charged. He is an evil, racist, nasty populist and dangerous. And farm attacks spike after these incidences. Now, our ridiculous legal system, captured, ruled that it wasn't hate speech. Kill the Boer, kill the white people isn't hate speech.
That's the very definition of hate speech.
Exactly. But, compromised, ANC, calm it down. It has created such damage in this country, such danger for farmers, and the murder, rape, and torture has been horrific. I mean, women raped, their breasts cut off, their skin burned off them in front of their children. I mean, horrific stuff. which tells you it isn't just economic. Now, farms are isolated, and until relatively recently, they did not have the community protection that they required, which they put in place. Police were not incentivized to help them, if they even arrived at all. Usually the local farmers had arrived long before the police to find these horrific situations. And Afri Forum and other organizations and podcasters have brought this to the world's attention. Whereas our ANC government, even in front of Trump, said, South Africa is a dangerous country. This is nothing special. But look at the facts. Look at the statistics. It is. And interestingly, Trump and America has a huge investment package ready to come to South Africa, massive, on 3 conditions. And the first one is make farm murders a priority crime. The second is get rid of black economic empowerment, black elite enrichment, and get rid of expropriation without compensation. I think those were the 3 conditions Trump asked. That's it, in exchange for an enormous investment package. But the ANC are not going to do it because BE and EWC is how they steal, and they don't really care about the average South African, and they don't care who gets murdered. I mean, it's pretty disgusting to say in front of Trump, South Africa has a high murder rate, is a very dangerous country. Why do you think it's that? Because of you, Cyril Ramaphosa.
You mentioned Julius Malema. So, am I correct in thinking he was part of the ANC youth division first? So he's that. So give us a little bit of a backstory on him, because he's the one that obviously Trump shown the world the harrowing footage of him being incredibly racist towards white people, you know, in the stadiums with the red berets on. Because obviously that was about a year ago that sort of was put on the world stage. Where are we at now with him and the EFF?
He's still doing it.
Okay.
And he's still a force of evil and trouble, but he's only 8-9% of the voting population. It's 1 out of 10 people vote EFF. Wow. Still quite a lot.
Yeah.
But his party won't grow more than that. They're troublemakers, they're populists, they're dangerous, they're destructive. And the majority of voters see that. So I don't think he's got a role beyond being a troublemaker. And also his voters are very much in certain parts of South Africa, not the rest of South Africa. So, you know, he could never institute anything beyond civil unrest in certain areas in South Africa. And he has been charged for firing a weapon at a public event. Took out a gun, fired it in the air at a public event. That's illegal. Mm-hmm. And he's been charged. He's going to get sentenced in a month or 2. You see what happens.
How do you think that'll materialise?
Well, I'd like him to be...
I know, yeah.
I'd like them to chuck him in jail, throw away the key. He's looking pretty skinny right now. I think he's stressed out, or he's got some deadly disease. I don't know.
I never understand the thought process of people who are radicals and that. Like, surely, even if that is your thought process and your rhetoric, surely, or maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, common sense hopefully would prevail of, you know that sooner or later you're going to meet your demise if you continue to behave and act the way he does. And obviously in this instance he's been thrown to jail.
Hopefully. But he's stealing too. I mean, there's huge corruption around him and the people around him. You know, they've all found their way to, you know, eat from the trough illegally.
Yeah.
But he's in trouble.
So you mentioned with the election coming up, what are you hoping to drive forward? What are you hoping can come now from your message, and what you want to see come of South Africa?
So I want to see the international community keep pressure on the bad guys. America's doing it. Where's Europe and the UK? Mm-hmm. So I've got a very close friend who's in the House of Lords. And when I asked him, why don't you stand up and call out the ANC? He's got a role in Africa. He's a great guy. And he goes, we use soft diplomacy. And I said, soft cock more likely. You know, and it's pathetic.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. You know, I know Farage hasn't stood up and said anything about South Africa, but he's got an election to win. He'll do it when he gets into power. But no one else says anything. They don't say boo to a fly in Africa. And no one in Europe does either. There are some countries that, Hungary and Austria, will say something, but with no impact. You know, Australia used to, but they've gone left and woke. New Zealand never did. They're pathetically woke. And so who's the only power standing up and pointing out South Africa? Trump and America. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not hearing it anywhere else. So the ANC have been acting with moral superiority from day one. We're the Rainbow Nation. We saved South Africa. We can say and do whatever we like. We're untouchable. Not anymore. Thank you, Trump.
Yeah. What can people who live in South Africa, what can they do? Back another party on the build-up to this? What do you want the people to unite?
Stay armed and practice with your gun, because anything can happen. Mm-hmm. Can I say that seriously? South Africans need to register and vote. You'd be amazed how many people have just given up on democracy. They go, it's pointless. My vote's not going to make a difference. Your vote makes a huge difference. Register and vote. We've got municipal elections coming up at the end of the year. Helen Ziller, one of the leading lights in the Democratic Alliance, almost 80 years old, a lioness, she's our Margaret Thatcher, has put her name down to be mayor of Johannesburg. Johannesburg's been run by the ANC since 1994, and it's falling apart. There are potholes in the street, there's sewage on the roads, nothing works. Half the buildings in Johannesburg, the city of Johannesburg, have been invaded by illegal occupiers. Nothing's done about it. It's a disaster. Johannesburg is becoming a shithole. It is, thanks to the ANC. But people on the ground are noticing. And we have a chance, the good guys, to get Helen Ziller elected as mayor of Johannesburg for the first time in 31 years. And she will make a huge difference. And if she gets elected, it'll be entirely because a lot of the black people and black voters in Johannesburg have realized the ANC are corrupt and incompetent. They can't run a massive metro. Let's give Helen Ziller a chance. And an extraordinary political analyst, Prince Mashele, never been involved in politics, said he would grudgingly support Helen Ziller as mayor. Now, if that happens, it's the biggest political chess move in South Africa. Have a white female senior in the Democratic Alliance running a big metro other than Cape Town. Then we have Johannesburg, Cape Town, and potentially Pretoria and Port Elizabeth, the biggest, other than Durban, the biggest centers in South Africa, run by the good guys. And if they can get quick wins in place and fix things, then the voters who grudgingly back them will vote DA or good guys in 2029. So then the thing will swing. Then we can fix the country.
So the foundations have kind of been laid, and hopefully that can then resurrect.
But will the ANC give up power? Will they give up stealing? What will they do? Interesting to see.
If things don't go the way you want them to, and the ANC remain in power, just how worse can it get here in South Africa?
So the ANC, when they hit rock bottom, they keep digging. That's how stupid and evil they are. They do not care about any of the people in South Africa. They care about themselves, 100 or so of them, and stealing for as long as possible. If they had any brain, they would grow the economy so they could steal more for longer. But these are base, evil, stupid people. They can do a lot worse. Expropriation without compensations in law, they could implement that. And then our economy's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know, another million white-coloured and Indian South Africans will leave. The youth will be gone and not come back. There'll be zero foreign direct investment. Our economy will crater. And then maybe there's civil unrest. Maybe then the people sort of, go from hopeless to desperate to furious. And when the fires burn, you don't know which direction they're going to head. They could come towards us, or they could head towards Pretoria and attack the ANC. Things can get worse, definitely.
It's amazing the political sort of sphere around South Africa, how there was all this sort of talk and noise around apartheid and Mandela and being a terrorist. So like now it's almost like the political sphere has changed quite drastically in terms of people talking about it, because all these things that you're outlining and all these things that we've probably not even unpacked here today are testament as to why the ANC should be listed as a terrorist organisation. A dictatorship, but they're not. That's why I kind of asked you, if you could make it comparable to some of the Western political parties, which you've mentioned. Venezuela's about as close as you get, and it's just, why is this not being identified? Why is this not? I mean, it is thanks to yourself, but
you know why? The leftist press don't say a word.
No,
the main or dinosaur media, not mainstream media, and it's been left to the centre-right publications, like The Telegraph, and like The Spectator, and like podcasters like you, to keep it in the press. Whereas, the BBC is not going to say boo to a black person. The Overton window is quite interesting. You know the concept of the Overton window? Because the Overton window, inside it, you can say things. Outside is taboo. But I have moved the Overton window considerably in this country. 4 years ago, I said something, footsack ANC, which means F off ANC. And people were saying, you can't say that, the Liberation Army, it's disrespectful. And I said, what they're doing to this country is disrespectful. Now, everyone's saying footsack ANC. I've called Cyril Ramaphosa a spineless clown. Everyone's using spineless clown. So I've moved the Overton window where lots of people, podcasters, journalists, even a couple of cowardly corporates in this country have stood up and said, this is unacceptable. The ANC is destroying the country. And the people on the ground are noticing it. What we need to do in the municipals and 2029 is have as many of those people as possible have the courage not to leave the ANC and do nothing, but to leave the ANC and vote for another party, one of the good guys.
Do you think that the Iranian regime, do you think that's going to come to an end now?
Yes, I do.
And how soon do you think that will materialise?
So there's no question in my mind that America, Israel, and Britain, because I believe they've committed 12 Typhoon aircraft to the potential attack, well done, Britain, and there are other allies that aren't putting their heads above their parapet. When they hit Iran, they will put Iran back to another century, militarily and economically. Iran will try its best to take out American planes and American ships, but I pray, will be completely unsuccessful. The question is, how does one then create regime change? What happens from ground up? And I think America's been delaying because they wanted to get enough equipment into the area, which I think is now in place, a full range of defense and attack, but also something's being put in place for ground up, people on the streets being armed or being able to inform everyone else and say, right, we protest now, we riot now, we take on the Iranian regime now. And I'm sure the Israelis know they're going to behead a lot of other gangsters in the IRGC.
Well, it eliminates a lot of the proxies, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So I'm sure Israel
you've got to salute Israel for what it's done on behalf of Judeo-Christian civilization. They are the front line. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, America.
My next question was, does Israel have an unquestionable right to exist as a Jewish state?
Yes.
I know your answer for that.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, what's your take on Benjamin Netanyahu? Is he this evil figure that he's made out in some aspects, or is he a source of good? Someone said to me, I can't remember who it was, but they think that Netanyahu potentially might have, similar to Mandela, in a sense of he was a terrorist, he was listed as a bad person, he was a bad person in some regards, but then he'll go down as one of the biggest political figures in modern society. Do you think Netanyahu has that stamp, or?
Look, he's the longest serving president of, is president or prime minister?
Oh, good question. We'll fact check that, but yeah,
he's the longest
leader,
serving leader of Israel that Israel's had, and he has strengthened the state of Israel beyond measure. He has flattened Hamas, hammered Hezbollah, weakened the Houthis, and put Iran in a position where there could be a regime change, and hasn't flinched. I've never met the guy. A lot of my friends, including my brother, are not Netanyahu fans, but believe in the state of Israel and think somebody else could have done a better job. I have no call on that. I have no idea. What's a better job mean?
Well, yeah,
not
exactly.
go to war,
be
weaker, be attacked. I don't know.
I think he's in terms of a leader
held Israel
for Israel.
together.
Yeah, he's been a strong leader for the state. I mean, it's questionable. Obviously, I don't want to start unpacking this now. It's questionable with some of the decisions that's been made outside of Israel, but no one can deny that he's been a strong leader for Israel.
He's definitely a hawk. He's not a dove. He's a hawk. He'll go for the fight if that. They'd rather win the war, the military war, than the PR war.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other way around. Lose the war, you're done. So
we ask all our guests this final question. So I'll ask the question to you. It's, what does challenge mean to you? So what does challenge mean to Rob Hersov?
So I try to practice Stoicism. Stoicism's ancient philosophy from ancient Greece, which died off, rejuvenated, died off, and then Epictetus, a great philosopher, regenerated it, and then Marcus Aurelius, the greatest Roman Empire that ever lived, was a Stoic. And Stoicism says the obstacle is the way. Basically, the challenge is the way. And in life, dealing with challenges is the whole purpose of life, and that is what makes you. For me, I was reading up about recklessness and courage. When I do my public speaking and calling out the government, am I being reckless or am I being courageous? And there's a big difference between the two. And courage is doing something where there is a cost and not necessarily a benefit. And a challenge is exactly that. Dealing with challenges often implies resolving issues, but I think it's a lot more than that. It's gaining ground when there is limited upside and unlimited downside. And my podcasting is the first time in my life that I've really looked in the mirror and felt proud of myself, the man in the mirror. You can fool everyone around you, but you have to respond to the man in the mirror. That's the ultimate judge. It's you when you look in the mirror. And everything in life, because I've been fortunate and I've made the best of everything I've tried, has seemed to come easy to me. I'm honest about it, and I don't take it for granted. I'm very grateful. But this standing up and calling out the government, which has huge cost to me, reputationally, financially, emotionally, stress levels, putting my family under pressure, has been the greatest challenge of my life. And it's continuing. I'm in the middle of it right now. And what I have to do is keep going. I have to persist and pursue. That is the great challenge for me.